figured the best way would be just to read 3 paragraphs on the dust jacket so you can figure out what the book's about a bit before I read that chapter. In the tradition of John Krakauer's Under the Banner of Heaven, Jesus Freaks is a story of a shocking pilgrimage of revenge that left 2 people dead and shed new light on the Family International, one of the most controversial new religious sects to emerge from the spiritual turmoil of the 1960s and 1970s. Some say the Family International, previously known as the Children of God, began with the best of intentions, but their sexual and spiritual excesses soon forced them to go underground and to follow a dark and dangerous path. Their charismatic leader, David Moses Berg, preached a radical critique of the piracy and hypocrisy of mainstream Christianity, but Berg's message quickly devolved into its own web of lies. He lusted for power and unlimited access to female members of his flock, including young girls and teenagers, and became a drunken tyrant, setting up re-indoctrination camps around the world for rebellious teenagers under his control. Thousands of children, there were 13,000 children born into this group over the 3 decades, thousands of children raised in the family would defect and try to live normal lives, but the prophet's heir apparent, Ricky Davidito Rodriguez, was unable to either bear the excesses of the cult or fit into normal society. Sexually and emotionally abused as a child, Ricky left the fold and began a crusade to destroy the only family he ever knew, including a plot to kill his own mother, who's now the leader of the Family International. So this is what I wanted to read is chapter 16, which is towards the end of the book, where before this I tell the whole history of the Jesus movement in the 60s and this particular movement and the founders. And then it starts out with the murder and I get back to the murder in this chapter. So it takes place in Tucson, Arizona on January 8th, 2005, in Ricky's apartment. Ricky left the apartment exhausted and exhilarated, adrenaline pumping, mind racing. Sue's body was left behind, draining blood into the thick brown shag of the living room carpet. He'd stabbed her 5 times, then slit her throat. It had been nearly 3 decades since she first walked into young Davidito's life, back on the island of Tenerife in the Canary Islands. In the story of Davidito, there's a picture of Sue lying in bed with the 2-year-old Ricky, unbuttoning his shirt and seductively smiling down on him. Ricky is also smiling, ready for love-up time. There's a caption under the photo explaining that the prophet Prince was, quote, undressing, ... for Sue, ! Ricky had learned on Christmas Day that Sue was going to be in Tucson for the first weekend in January of 2005. She had agreed to go out to dinner to catch up on old times. Ricky knew his date was his mother's eyes and ears. She was her personal secretary. She would know how to find Karen Zerby, that's the mother, and her husband, Peter Amsterdam. He finally had his chance for revenge. Ricky picked her up early Saturday evening, but they never made it to dinner. Instead, Ricky took her back to his small 1-bedroom flat in Los Altos Village, a large apartment complex not far from the Tucson gun shop and firing range where Ricky learned to use his Glock 23, the .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol he'd loaded the night before with hollow point Golden Saber bullets. None of Ricky's neighbors remember seeing him or Sue enter or leave the apartment, which is tucked under a stairway on the ground floor of the 2-story chocolate brown complex. The sprawling collection of flats is home to many Spanish-speaking immigrants and other people who, like Ricky, are new to this desert city. No one knows exactly what Sue knew or what she told Ricky that night as to the whereabouts of his mother and other family leaders. His knife assault was vicious, but police found no evidence that he had tortured his former nanny, as he said he was going to do previously. After the murder, Ricky tossed his prized K-bar knife under the IKEA sofa in the living room. Then he walked out to the parking lot, climbed into his silver Chevy Cavalier, and drove off towards Interstate 10. Before he reached the freeway on-ramp, he pulled out his cell phone and called Alexia, that's his estranged wife who lived in Washington State. The phone in her Lakewood, Washington apartment rang at 7:15 p.m. Quote, "Don't let anyone ever tell you that taking someone's life is easy. It's not," Ricky said. "It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life," his wife sobbed. "I miss you so much," Ricky said. "Come die with me." Listening to Rick that night, Alexa said she felt like she was dying. "He just left the apartment," she said. "He told me he was sorry he failed me as a husband, but that's not true. It was just too hard for us to be together." They both grew up in this cult. There was so much pain. They talked several times that night as Ricky drove out to Tucson headed towards Interstate 10. They talked so much Ricky had to pull off the freeway outside Phoenix and stop at a Target store to buy a car charger for his cell phone. Getting out of the car, Ricky noticed that Sue's blood was all over his jeans. He grabbed a clean pair of pants out of the bag in the trunk, jumped back into the car, and changed into clean clothes, tossing the crumpled, bloody trousers on the floor by the passenger seat. Ricky called Alexia back when he got on the freeway. He said he was afraid of dying, Alexia said. I told him I believed in angels, and when he died there, he would feel love, and he would feel the love he'd never experienced in this world. Keep telling me nice stories, Ricky replied. At one point in the conversation, Ricky saw road signs indicating that he was approaching a rest stop on the freeway. I think I'll pull over here and kill myself, he told his estranged wife. I'm freaking out, yelling, What? What are you going to do? Alexia explained. He'd been awake for 2 days. He was really tired, just mumbling words. Ricky decided there was too much light at the rest stop. It wasn't the right place to kill himself, so he pushed on to the California border. I'm so tired, he told his wife. I'm so tired of thinking. I have to go now.